You are in the temple of the rants, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Bella, who says, rant about economics. Well, to the surprise of absolutely no one, I don't really know much about economics. Haven't really studied it or researched it. Don't really care that much. I think they are potentially interesting, but listening to people talk about economics is a nightmare because people tend to have a stance that they have glommed onto, and they view everything through the lens of their stance, when everything is infinitely complicated and different circumstances have different applications or results. It's like everybody wants to talk about economics in like the most broad sense imaginable, which is really not the way in which they're interesting. Because like if you're talking about it like, oh, we need to overhaul the system or change this and that rules, and like I'd rather look at economics from like specific instances, how like particular companies have run or what issues they've run into, how you could, fix things in a more immediate way than like a total reconstruction. So I'm just gonna touch on one thing, and I'm sure this is gonna be controversial, and I'm gonna hate reading the comments on this video. But I was thinking about how the end result of capitalism and communism seems like they should be exactly the same. Like they're both trying to do ostensibly the same thing, or at least it would make the most sense that way. Because in a capitalistic system, everybody's just trying to make as much money as possible. But you can only make as much money as people have to spend. There's a finite number of people, a finite number of resources, and a finite amount of money in circulation. So for people to be able to spend money on something that you create, they need to have more money to spend. So to me, it makes sense that in a capitalist system, if you wanted to make the most money possible, you would need to be creating a way for the most people to have the most money possible to give. So, like, it makes the most sense to me that companies would be, in the short term, they might be incentivized to, fuck the customer over and try to make money in the easiest, quickest ways they can, but it's unsustainable to do that. You can't get by long term on bad business because ultimately somebody can easily undercut you by just creating something better. And I think that we can see how certain companies are trying to raise the baseline quality of things, but they're also trying to do it by taking over everything. So like I think about Disney, for instance, how Disney is slowly buying up all the other media properties around. And they're able to do this because they're making better shit. More people are more satisfied with what Disney is doing than they are with what a lot of these other companies are doing. But they're also succeeding at that by basically understanding what people want the most and giving them exactly what they want. And I think that it ultimately dilutes the amount of variety that there is to have one company taking over everything and just feeding to the lowest common denominator. But I don't know what it would take for people to get bored of that or to resist it. And maybe they don't need to. Maybe it's fine if everybody who wants that kind of standardized media just comes to Disney for it, and then, everything else is just cult and has a specific appeal. But, I see this happening where these companies are trying to, they're trying to get the biggest that they can by offering the best baseline user experience. And, a lot of those companies are celebrated, even though a lot of what they're doing is worrying to people who don't want to have these gigantic, monopoly conglomerates sort of directing the culture. But I do think that, it's possible that it's better. Who knows? I mean, I have to see how this all plays out. But, it just seems like promoting the common welfare is in the best interest of anyone in any system. You always want people to be doing better and making more money, so that they can work with you better. I think it's short-sighted to think that, that communism's all about fucking people over. It's all about, getting rich quick and hoarding all the money you can, because again, it doesn't work out long term that way. That's why competition exists. And I think that it's healthier to have that competition than to have, a one size fits all economic system where everybody is participating in the same social welfare system that's like all encompassing, because it doesn't encourage that kind of competition. It doesn't encourage evolution of ideas. It doesn't encourage anybody to make things better than the last guy made it. And what we would consider the baseline is extremely debatable between different people. I think that there's some people who have this idea that it's like, oh, well, we just need to meet the basic needs of everybody, and then they can do whatever they want. But, like, there's a disagreement about what is the basic needs of everybody. Where do you draw the line on what you're, what should just be a given to anybody? In America, we have a baseline of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pretty easy baseline to meet. If we go above that, at what point does it become not worth it anymore for the people who are working hard to perpetuate that system, who aren't getting the return on investment that they feel they've earned? You'd really have to convince people that they didn't need the things that they want, and I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to convince people. So, it's hard for me to have much faith in that system having any chance of working. But this is all very vague, and obviously not from a position of having read anything. So why would you listen to me about economics? I'm a YouTuber.